What's up, everyone? Marc Lobliner, CEO, MTS Nutrition. Is a carb a carb? Carbohydrate, being that we have one camp that is extremist anti-carbohydrate, the keto people. Then you got the vegans over here who are extreme. Carbs are great, fat will clog your arteries and kill you. And then you got the flexible dieters who just like eating peanut butter between two Pop-Tarts sandwiched together with ice cream on top. You have extremes and more extremes. So the question is a carb a carb? The answer is technically yes. Well, they all end up getting turned into glucose anyway, right? Like a complex carbohydrate simply gets broken down into glucose, whereas if you eat glucose, it's immediately utilized as your body as to glucose. Now, one thing carbohydrates do is they raise your insulin. When your insulin rises, it can over time with chronic elevation of your insulin, lead to things like syndrome X, type 2 diabetes, chronic diseases, inflammation. Carbs are a bitch because there's a lot of different carbs. However, I'm going to simplify it. I'm going to take all the cherry-picked scientific arguments out of the equation and tell you this. When you set up a diet, my advice is pretty simple. Find your total caloric intake needed, okay? Now for that, I recommend you measure your food for 7 days straight. Add up all the macronutrients and calories within those 7 days. A program like My Plate or Fit Day, it'll be able to give you those macros. Just log your food as you eat it. Okay, add it up. And after you add it up 7 days, we're divide it by 7. If you stayed the same weight from the beginning of the 7 days to the end of the 7 days, that's your maintenance, period. Forget about any ratios. Forget about any charts. To make it easier, I'll link down below the TDEE chart on Tiger Fitness. But to be real with you guys, that, in my opinion, is the best way to find your maintenance calories. Now, I like to set your protein a little bit high, about 1 gram per pound of body weight, right? And I like to set your fat at around 0.5 grams per pound of body weight. Now, to figure out how many carbs you need, you take that overall caloric total you got from that measurement we just did. So you take the total calories from protein, total calories from fat. There's 4 calories per gram of protein, 9 calories per gram of fat. And then you find out the calories from that. If there's, let's say, 2,000 calories from those, but you get 3,000 calories total, that means that you get 1,000 calories from carbohydrate. So you take that 1,000 and you divide it by 4. So 250, that equals your total carbohydrate intake. Since you aren't just eating carbs, a lot of these studies measuring your carbohydrate intake are done using it in a fasted state. I'm assuming you're not just going to sit around eating potato chips all day. What I recommend you do is fill in the rest with mostly whole food micronutrient dense carbohydrate. Fruits are extremely full of micronutrients. Vegetables, extremely full of micronutrients. If you want a more dense carbohydrate source, let's say you're bulking, sweet potatoes, extremely dense in micronutrients. So you look at all these different sources, like, well, what if I feel like having a bagel? Have a fucking bagel. Just make it fit into those given macronutrients. At the end of the day, a carbohydrate is a carbohydrate because it will convert to glucose. How fast they do it will affect your energy. What I found is when I have a whole food meal that's comprised of a lower glycemic carbohydrate. Now, I'm not saying that lower glycemic carbohydrate will lead to more fat loss. I am saying that for me, it leads to more sustained energy. So think about it. Things like oatmeal, things like Ezekiel bread, things like, a slower digesting source of carbohydrate, a more complex carbohydrate, will make me feel better than eating something like white rice. Now there's a caveat. If you combine that white rice with a fat source and a protein source, it alters the rate of digestion. So if you're eating a mixed meal, meaning it has either protein and fat, protein, carbs, and fat, or any mixture of the macronutrients, it vastly compromises or differs from if you were to just eat that carbohydrate source alone. So you have to look at that as well. So what's the answer? The answer is quite simple. When you can and when you feel like it, eat food sources rich in micronutrients. Why? Because they're fucking healthy. All right? Things like vegetables, fruits, bananas, berries, dark berries are phenomenal. Blackberries, blueberries, raspberries, strawberries, all great for you. Eat them. However, there's no reason why you can't have an occasional pastry. Or for those of you who like it, an occasional Pop-Tart. Just make sure it fits within your overall caloric needs. What we found, and there's a lot of studies that contradict a lot of studies. I'm not going to be a zealot like Gary Taubes. I'm not going to be a zealot like some vegans out there where I only look at one view. I look at all of them. And I'm a guy who's all about balance. And I do write about this. I have a book called Drop Factor Book. It's dropfactorbook.com. I do like balance. And I don't like to deprive people. And I don't like to eliminate food groups. And I do think I know your body needs fat for optimal hormone production. I know your body needs protein. The one thing that's not essential out of all the 3 macronutrients is carbohydrate. There's no essential carbohydrate. However, and this is a lot of anecdote, I do find that I perform better and feel better when I have some carbohydrate in my diet. I feel my best when those carbohydrates are from very micronutrient dense sources like fruits and veggies, and even sweet potatoes are super high in nutrients. Things like that make me feel the best. And at the end of the day, the way I do my diet is what I've extrapolated through years of research, data, and of course, competing and being just an active dad myself to feel the best and be the best I want to be. With that said, a carbohydrate is a carbohydrate for fat loss. However, we need to look beyond fat loss and look towards overall health, wellness, and performance. And for that, there is a difference. Choose micronutrient-dense carbs, but don't deprive yourself of those carbohydrates you love. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Appreciate it. I'm going to link my book down below. I'm Marc Lobliner, and that's not a game.